going to show you two things that have worked really well. The first one is a scarf that we made with Grace and Perry. These are unlimited, by the way, so we can reprint and remake these as much as we want to. It works fantastically because it's very typical of his work. He is incredibly engaged socially. He's very interested in how ideas circulate. He's very media savvy. He's respected by slightly more conservative groups of visitors because he has a craft that they can understand. So from all of those points of view, he's appreciated and bought by lots of different groups of customers. And this is the scarf he made for us. Tate Modern in the middle there. And the other one I want to show you is, this is a particular favourite of mine. This is Richard. I don't know if people are familiar with Richard's work, but again, he's an artist who's interested in things in the world, and this is a measuring glass he made for us. And as you can see, the liquid is measured in sips and mouthfuls and gulps, so it's about your experience of that drink and your social time. We've sold thousands of these, and I always think they're a bit of Richard's mind and interest going out into the world every time we sell one. The price on that is, I think it's £8.50, so it's a very, very reasonably priced artist's item. I'll just say something about bad product development, because I think these are all examples of good product development, and that's because they've stemmed from thinking about the customer, thinking about the brand, thinking about the uniqueness of the Tate experience, and then really trying to make something that sums up those customers' journeys and desires. But some years ago, I interviewed a group of people for a product development role, and I thought, I won't mention the word customer. I'll see how long it takes them to mention that, to mention them. And I didn't even, or even the audience, that would be fine. If they talk about people, that would be good. And it was really astonishing how many people didn't talk about customers at all. And the most extreme example was when I said to somebody, tell me how you approach a product range. And I wanted her to talk about all of those things, joy and delight and learning and the visitor journey and becoming a customer, and then the economics, thinking about a price architecture and thinking about practicalities, thinking about the products people would want, and then finding the right imagery to work with that. But actually what she said was, well, I look at an artwork, and if it's rectangular, I'll put it on a tea towel or a tray. So I really, really hope you're not having conversations like that. But if you are, they could probably become more sophisticated and subtle. Our product development team is amazing, pretty small for the amount of products and revenue they generate. They're thinking now about future development, and they're going to be focusing on a number of different areas, but one that I mentioned is print, because that's two interesting extremes. On the one hand, we're going to be looking at collection prints, very affordable. We're going to be doing custom prints, where we're managing the software and the printing ourselves, so not going through a third party, and we're launching that in a few weeks' time. On the other end of the scale, we're going to be doing limited edition artists' works, prints and editions. One of the paradoxes of the recession was that we found that in addition to the people who really wanted to haul in their spending, so we spent a lot of time thinking about the under £10 product, we also discovered that there were people out there with just vast amounts of money to spend. The recession hasn't really touched them at all. And certainly during our Damien Hirst exhibition, he's a very commercial artist, as I'm sure you know, and we stocked and sold limited edition prints during the run of that show. Some of them were £2,000, some of them were £10,000, 15, and the most expensive was £30,000. And we sold over £600,000 worth of print during that exhibition. We sold a couple of the £30,000 ones, but most of the sales were between the £8,000 and £10,000 mark. And it was a really amazing experience to see staff by the end of that exhibition saying, that'll be £8,000, thank you very much. So we know there's a market there. We don't want to react to it anymore. We want to talk to artists very actively about making and selling editions. Let me talk a little bit about publishing. It won't surprise you to know that we approach our publishing in the same way as we approach our product development. We're thinking about the customer all the time, who's going to buy and read this book. And I'm going to show you some titles that we're making for the Matisse exhibition that's coming up. It opens the day that I get back, actually. It's a Matisse cutouts exhibition. It's going to be incredible. I think it'll be really beautiful. It'll be one of the few times that you'll be able to see some of these works together. We are targeting 475,000 visitors to this exhibition. If they all come, it'll be the biggest show that we've ever had on at Tate. So the catalogue on the left is aimed at, catalogues are always really tricky because that's where you have that conversation, who is it for? In Tate, the catalogue publishing is firmly held within the commercial company, so it's made to be bought by a customer. In other organisations, it works differently. It can be held within the exhibition budget, and it's made as part of the exhibition costs. And certainly that's the model we find when we're working in partnership with museums in Europe or in America. Often it's subsidised or wholly funded by sponsors. Sometimes we have to buy in a catalogue because we're collaborating on an exhibition, and it's really clear that the word customer hasn't crossed anybody's mind when it comes to that catalogue. The Liechtenstein exhibition that we had, which was so popular, had a massive catalogue, which made me cross every time I looked at it. It was really not aimed at the very general visitor that we had. It was absolutely enormous. Nobody could have carried it away. I think we lost sales there, and we almost certainly lost sales to Amazon because people wanted it delivered to their home. So when we're making catalogues, we're thinking about our customers. I think the customers for the Matisse catalogue are researchers and self-improvers and aficionados, if you looked at our last slide. So the writing has to be accessible but scholarly. But it's not a really, really specialist read. I think sometimes if there's lots of pictures, then sensualists might buy it. But for Matisse, the Matisse show, we're going to be doing lots and lots and lots of print, so I think that's where they'll spend their money. So we're producing a catalogue, which will be a £30 retail price. We'll price it within the exhibition at between £19.99 and £24.99. We move our prices up and down during the run of a show. We're responding to pick-up rates, and we're responding to our stock situation, and we'll reprint during that run probably 2 or 3 times to make sure we don't end up with too much stock, but we've got enough stock. We've just finished a clay exhibition, and we sold out of the catalogue at 3 o'clock on the Sunday afternoon. So I really apologise to anyone who came between 3 and 5 that there was no catalogue left to buy. We're also publishing an introductory book on the Wright. It's very much aimed at non-specialists. Lots of pictures at $6.99. We're reissuing a 1930s children's book, a cut-out picture book, and we're also publishing an interview with Matisse from the 1940s that has never been published in English before, very, very much aimed at a specialist market. Here's where I want to talk about digital and about customers, because I've done a really easy thing here, and you can pick me up on it as soon as you want to. And I've talked about publishing for an exhibition with a really vast visitor target, and not all exhibitions are like that. At Liverpool at the moment, we've got a show on called Keywords, and that will reach probably 8,000 visitors. And we've got a lot of shows, we have had a lot of shows, and we will have a lot of shows at Tate Britain in particular, that reach between 15 and 45,000 visitors. And it's very hard to make catalogues for that number of people commercially. Nevertheless, that's what we're tasked to do. And traditionally, we've made catalogues for every show that we've put on. But now, within the company, we're starting to ask the question, why are we printing a catalogue for this exhibition? Catalogues were invented when there was no other medium to spread the word of that show. And now there is. We should be using the web a whole lot more to reach more people. When we're talking about catalogues for small shows, we end up in very depressing and mean conversations about how few copies we can print and how few words we can publish, how many pages there should be. It's not a generous conversation, and I think that might be one of the, that's an interesting consequence of working commercially in this area. But I think there's an opportunity to do something much more exciting online, to give up the thing of the catalogue and to move to a stage where we can put all of our research and learning online, we can reach a much larger audience, and we can continually update that information. If we publish for an exhibition that's going to reach 20,000 people, we might sell 800 catalogues. Surely, by putting it online and by having an engagement and having responses, we can reach more people than that. So this is the conversation we're starting to have. I think there's an opportunity for a small, quick-thinking, quick-moving organisation to really lead the way here. I think it's harder for big organisations to turn that tanker and to make that move. But I think it's a really interesting and current area. I think everyone talks about digital. Everyone says they have a digital strategy, and social media is kind of easy because it's, you know, it's quick and it's engaging and it's not making you change the way that you work. But catalogue publishing and publishing online really is doing that, and I don't think we're so well engaged at that at the moment, and I'd be interested to hear if any of you are doing that well. If we're publishing tiny, tiny amounts of books, selling tiny amounts of books and putting the rest in a stock cupboard, everyone has a stock cupboard filled with publications that they haven't sold, and at that point I say, is it reputational publishing or is it vanity publishing that we're engaged in? And I think there's a real debate to be had there. Everyone looks very serious. So I talk about children's publishing, just really quickly to say that we recognise there was a really good opportunity to publish for kids, and looking back now, it seems crazy that we had long conversations about should we be publishing for children. Was that what Tate was about? Of course it is. Children are a massively important part of our visitor group. People buy for children all the time, even if they're not buying for themselves, and so we started publishing for children. Here's a small selection of the books. When we started publishing, it was almost like a secret. We didn't really tell anyone we were publishing kids' books, even though we were selling loads of them. But now it's very commonly known, and we're all very proud about our children's books. I'll give you a graph about money. Here's the gross profit of our children's book publishing over the last few years. So as you can see, it's been a really interesting addition to our list. Okay. Lastly, a little bit about retail. This is our main shop at Tate Modern. We bring exactly the same kind of thinking to our retail spaces. We want them to appeal to different kinds of customers. We want people to feel comfortable there. The Tate Modern shop hasn't changed very much in the last 14 years. It's a very big space. The The great thing about it is it's a very democratic space. So if you go in there, you're equally valued as a book buyer or as a product buyer, as a postcard buyer, whether you're a child or an adult. And that's great. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't differentiate environmentally for different kinds of customers. We've now got the prospect of a big new extension being built at Tate Modern, and we'll have new shop spaces in there. And so we wanted to try and bring some of that thinking about customers to our new spaces. And most particularly when it comes to the real specialist book buyers, they're actually quite a small percentage of our audience, but they are a very powerful and influential group of people with loud voices. And they don't especially enjoy buying books in a very noisy environment. One of the stories that I told recently was that I had to do a presentation to the Tate Modern Council. I thought it was going, pretty well, swimmingly. And then Chris O'Feely, who is on the council, said to me, "I think your shop is terrible." And I said, "Oh, why is that?" And he said, "I can't find any of the books that I want in there. You don't have them." So after the meeting was over, I took him down to the shop and I said, "What books do you want?" And he told me the books he wanted, and I found all of them for him. So it's not about the stock. We have the best book stock probably in Britain, certainly in London, for art books. But it was about the space. He just didn't want to be browsing in an environment that had huge school groups and kids and noisy tourists all around. You can have your own opinion about that, but and I do. But in the new space, we will have an architecture which really lends itself to a bookshop space. And so we are going to make a space that has seats, that has Wi-Fi, that has coffee, most importantly, has really knowledgeable staff so that you can turn to a member of staff and ask a question and they'll know the answer or where to find the answer. And we're doing that for all sorts of customer groups. So we're also going to have amazing kids spaces, and we will staff them with people who really like children. That matters. And I think it will be very successful. Here's the new building. Here's what it looks like at the moment. It's by the same architects, Herzog and de Meuron, and of course they were never going to build us a box. It's a really complex structure with lots of twists. The windows in particular, I understand, are very difficult to do. So that's what it looks like at the moment. But you can go up it now, and this is a photograph I took last week, which is looking over the roof of Tate Modern to St Paul's Cathedral. So that's looking down on the top floor restaurant. So it's going to be an absolutely amazing space when it's open. I just want to finish by saying something about retail, but I hope it's come out through all the rest of the thing I've been talking about, which is to say that it's so easy to talk about money and to just dismiss it. But money is a reflection of what people spend, and people choose to make that spend with you. And for me, it's a reflection of joy and delight and learning. I think if you're smart, you'll be tracking spend through your shops, and it'll be a KPI that you value because it will show you whether people are engaged with you. People don't spend money if they've had a bad time, and they do spend money if they have had a good time. So it's really important to think about that. I finished by talking about where I'm hoping to take the company in the future, to continue to put the customer at the heart of our conversation, to make the most of the programme, which is just such a gift. If you've been to see an amazing exhibition, you come out on a real high from that show. Same for the collections. But to look at non-programme income streams, I talked about limited editions, but I'm also looking to grow licensing and online revenues. And in 5 years' time, I hope that I'll be able to say that the company has a 50 million turnover and £5 million profit, and all of that money goes back to supporting the aims and ambitions of the gallery. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Excellent.
Online retailing is a very small percentage of our in-gallery sales at the moment, but we've invested in a new platform a couple of years ago, and we're growing our sales, so they doubled last year. We are really being pushed by the board and the trustees to grow online income, and we're going to target 15% of our in-gallery transactions as our online income over the next 2 years. That would be a huge amount of money. Income, as I said before, income is one thing and profit is another, so I think there are plenty of places that are probably making a lot of turnover through their online shops. I don't know how much actual profit they're making from it. So we're keeping quite a careful eye on how much we have to invest to make revenue and whether that gives us any better bottom line. But it certainly helps us with reach, and if we can stop anyone coming out of our shops and going to Amazon, we'd be delighted. So we're going to continue to chase that.
I don't want to preempt a future presentation, but part of the argument against charging admission charges that you may prevent the secondary spend. Have you got any sort of evidence or advice on that?
Oh, I was talking to somebody about that last night, and I think there are lots of different models. Actually, what I've found is that if people spend to go somewhere, then they're really committed to their visit, and they usually buy more in the shops. So if you pay to go into an exhibition, you buy a lot more in the shops afterwards than if you have a free exhibition. Our spend in St Ives is high. But I think the War Memorial Museum have done some modelling around their admission charges, which might show something a little different. I'm going to wait for that admission charging seminar and see what people say about it. But certainly, if we want to make money from an exhibition, a good way to do it is to add a ticket price.
If I could just add to that too, I think this notion that you have of delight and how much people enjoy the exhibition. If they really enjoy an exhibition, they've actually forgotten they paid to see it,
Yeah.
and they come out wanting a souvenir of that experience, and their entry ticket is not a souvenir of that experience, so they then go into the shop and spend on the very specific takeaway. And that's one of the things that we've done with our shop, is that we used to be the home of sort of power shell jewellery and candles and goodness knows what else. And, really annoyingly, moisturiser, which we used to use the samples and then get all over our publication.
Lovely.
And then we've moved really to be a specific souvenir experience of the museum, and it does work. Right, I saw some more hands.
Do you direct your visitors through the shop at the end of the experience?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes we do. We do at Tate Modern on the floor at the moment. I had a conversation with Nicholas Sirota where I genuinely had forgotten that he'd just taken over being the curator of that exhibition, and I just heard the visitor target, and I said to him, we're going to need a bigger shop, because it's not just about the products that you're